Batman fights crime because he believes it's his purpose. It's what he's supposed to do to make sure what happened to his parents doesn't happen to anyone else. But what if Batman didn't just fight crime, but believed he was chosen by God to punish criminals? When John Paul Valley took up the mantle of Batman, Gotham was supposed to gain a new hero. Instead, they got something far more dangerous. John Paul was programmed to be a weapon. Everyone around him saw him lose control, but he thought he was finally becoming who he was always meant to be. John Paul Valley was conceived as a test tube baby with an altered genetic structure. Scientists used animal DNA to ensure John Paul had superhuman capabilities. John Paul, however, grew up unaware of his intended larger purpose by a sinister religious society called the Sacred Order of Saint Dumas. The order used psychological conditioning to make sure John Paul repressed his abilities. They called this conditioning the system. They basically brainwashed him and induced trigger-based behavior to program and control him. The order used generations of indoctrination all to create the perfect agent of divine justice. When the system was to be activated, it wasn't something that would guide John Paul. It replaced him. But again, John Paul had no idea this was happening, and he grew up with a fairly normal life, graduating in computer science in Gotham City. One night, John Paul's father entered his apartment, bleeding in a special costume. His father was Azrael, an assassin for the Order. He was mortally wounded by Laha, a weapons dealer. Before passing away, John Paul's father gave him some money and instructions to travel to Switzerland to meet with the Order of Saint Dumas to start training. Sadly, the father actually wanted John Paul to leave the Order, but his intentions were misread. John Paul trained for a brief period of time with the Order to become the new Azrael. Due to the psychological conditioning, he was already a capable fighter. He was an expert in hand-to-hand combat and with a sword. Batman and Alfred found their way to Switzerland as well to investigate the mysterious death of John Paul's father. Azrael saw how Batman handled things, so he rejected his birthright with the Order and decided to fight alongside the Bat family. Bruce began to train Azrael. This quickly became useful as Bane broke Bruce's spine, crippling him and forcing him into a wheelchair. Azrael took over as Batman, although the effect of the system on Valley's mind led him to become a much colder and more violent Dark Knight. Crime certainly went down, and criminals grew even more afraid. Azrael began to alienate his allies, and he altered his costume to inflict more damage. Azrael didn't quite understand what made Batman, Batman. It's like he didn't see the line between punishment and justice. He only had eyes for the mission and for the enemy. Azrael believed he should punish criminals instead of saving lives, leading to the deaths of many people due to his actions and negligence. During this time, John Paul Valley suffered mentally. He grew increasingly violent and delusional. He experienced hallucinations of both his father and Saint Dumas, who told him that he must follow the Order and that he must avenge his father's death. Once Tim Drake informed Bruce Wayne of what was going on, Bruce reclaimed the mantle and shocked Azrael out of his mentally disturbed state. John Paul Valley apologized and asked for forgiveness as he acknowledged Bruce as the real Batman. Batman felt guilty about John Paul, and he kind of blamed himself that he suffered mentally and became so violent. Batman didn't fully understand John Paul, and he put that blame on himself. John Paul Valley continued his life as Azrael. Sadly, the psychological conditioning never went away, which meant his mental health issues never fully recovered. He kept experiencing hallucinations of his father and Saint Dumas. He also learned Laha, who killed his father, was still alive. In the battle against him, he was shot with 2 specially coated bullets and he fell in a river together with Laha. His body was never found, and his death was never confirmed. In 2016, DC launched a Rebirth series. This was basically another reboot of the DC universe. During that time, Jean-Paul Valley briefly joined the Gotham Knights. This was a group of Bat family members who were led by Batman and Batwoman. In the Deus Ex Machina storyline, Nomos appeared to him on the verge of death. Nomos was a part of the Order of Saint Dumas and was responsible for brutally training and preparing Jean-Paul to become Azrael. Nomos was targeted by a former associate of the Order who believed in guiding them in a new direction. This was executed by creating an AI named Ascalon that would assassinate key members of the Order of Saint Dumas. When Azrael encountered the AI, Ascalon confuses Jean-Paul for himself and reasserts his influence on Azrael. This would awaken his old programming, causing him to slowly regress back to his original Azrael personality as the system. The Gotham Knights fight back by creating a new AI based on Batman's best traits to encounter Ascalon's influence. When they researched what happened, they found out the former associate who created Ascalon was Jean-Paul Valley's father. When people refer to Jean-Paul Valley, they often call him the Batman who killed or the violent Batman. In a way that's true, but Azrael is more than just another version of Batman. Bruce Wayne chose to be Batman. Bruce grew into a position to decide to put on a mantle and fight crime. Jean-Paul did not. From the start of his life, Jean-Paul's identity was manufactured. He was never allowed to develop naturally. His personality, goal, and purpose were installed by the Order through the system. As Bruce Wayne chose to be Batman, Jean-Paul Valley was turned into Azrael. The system operates like an internal authority. It's a voice that feels absolute, certain, and infallible. When he put on the Batman suit, the voice only got stronger. The Order of Saint Dumas programmed him to believe this was his destiny. To him, this felt right. This does create a sort of psychological fragmentation. On one side, there's Jean-Paul, who is anxious, searching for meaning, and possibly still grieving his father's death. On the other side, there's Azrael. He is confident, violent, and is convinced of his own righteousness. As Azrael becomes dominant, Jean-Paul begins to disappear. The Azrael persona is much more violent and believed to be a manifestation of an actual biblical angel of vengeance. Jean-Paul Valley is not an evil Batman. Azrael lacked doubt, which led to a lack of moral restraint. Azrael never seemed to question whether his actions were right or wrong. He saw a criminal and felt justified to punish them. Azrael experienced moral absolutism. He's a very black and white thinker. Criminals are bad and he was good. People are either worthy or unworthy, actions are either right or wrong. To him, there's no in-between. This psychological fragmentation and black and white thinking is what makes Azrael so interesting, especially as Batman. In essence, it's not Jean-Paul or Azrael who decide what Batman should be. It was the system. This program made him believe in himself and his actions. The most dangerous person isn't the one who struggles with what's right or wrong, it's the one who believes they already know. Jean-Paul is pretty strong because he fights back against the program instilled in him when he was very young. He fights back against his destiny or identity that was forced onto him. That's what makes his story so tragic and human. For the first time in his life, Jean-Paul had to ask a question he was never meant to answer. If I'm not Azrael, then who am I? Dennis O'Neil, one of the creators of Azrael, made the same distinction in 1994. He wrote, "Bruce is very aware of what he is and how that contributes to what he does. He is not moved by internal or external forces that he doesn't already understand. Jean-Paul, on the other hand, has virtually no idea who he really is. He is, in the worst possible way, ignorant. Think about it. He had a rotten childhood he can barely remember. Conversely, Bruce remembers his childhood, which was, up until that one critical moment, a very happy and privileged one, all too well. So they are at extreme opposite ends of the psychological spectrum. We already established that Jean-Paul and Azrael are two personalities in one man. Earlier, I called this psychological fragmentation, but some people would also call it a dissociative identity disorder. It's the mental health disorder in which people experience different personalities that control their behavior. This is often caused by trauma. Now, Jean-Paul Valley gets taken over by Azrael due to the brainwashing done by the Order. So we obviously cannot say that he has a dissociative identity disorder. However, the impact on his life is probably very similar. First of all, experiencing multiple personalities is often related to struggling with other mental health disorders like depression and/or anxiety. They may also struggle with relationships and sometimes even substance abuse. Secondly, it impacts their daily lives. People with dissociative identity disorder often experience gaps in their memory. They may forget what happened when another personality took over. This is very frustrating. It must be very confusing to hear others talk about you or what you did when you can't even remember it. They may also feel like they are detached from reality, their emotions, and their sense of self. All of this is incredibly stressful. It's nerve-wracking to feel like you're not in control. Sadly, this may lead to suicidal thoughts. One 2017 study followed people with dissociative identity disorder for 12 months. In that year, 23.5% of them tried to take their own life. This risk is especially high when they also struggle with PTSD or substance abuse. Knowing this makes me love Jean-Paul even more. Despite his struggles, he still wants the best and he puts in the work to achieve it. Jean-Paul Valley's Batman is also very revealing. He shows that being Batman isn't just about strength or fear or even justice. It's about control. Not over others, but over yourself. Our memory is very important. Knowing how we act or what we experienced in the past can give us a sense of control. We can highlight our best traits while working on the things that went wrong. But what if you can't remember your past? Does the Joker's lies influence how he remembers everything? If you want to find out more about that, I suggest you watch this video next. Thank you so much for watching and I will see you in the next video. Bye!